live in an environment where there's a lot of chaos. And whether there's a lot of chaos externally or I just have a lot of emotions that aren't being seen and heard and validated. So there's chaos internally. Okay, so there's chaos, there's stress, there's that high stress, high cortisol, fight or flight energy. And I'm growing up in that. Whether it's the big T trauma, the little T trauma, the I'm just not sharing my feelings, so it feels like trauma, whatever it is, we can become, because it becomes a repeated experience and our brain ends up spending more time in fight or flight than rest and digest, because the brain is not concerned with what makes you happy and what makes you healthy. The brain is primarily concerned with what makes you safe. It starts to build that pathway that is, if you're in high stress, you'll survive. Look around, right? It's worked this long. You're in high stress at home, you're in high stress in your head, you're at high stress, and it works because you're still alive. And so I'm your brain, and the only thing I care about is keeping you alive. And so I'm going to make sure that you stay in high stress mode because I think that's where you're safe. So that when I, Lisa, sit down to meditate, now I'm doing the opposite. I'm trying to slow down. I'm trying to sit still. I'm trying to be where I am, not in the past and the future, past, future, past, future. I'm trying to actually just stay where I am and calm my nervous system. And now go from fight or flight to rest and digest, from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay. So I'm trying to balance myself out and create an equilibrium and really just make myself, be in a healthier place. But again, my brain is not designed for health and happiness. My brain is designed for safety. So that's why we get into this kind of wrestling match with ourselves, where the body really wants to be slowed down and still, but the brain wants to move, 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 because it thinks that's where you're safe. And so we have to have an understanding that the brain is always trying to protect you and keep you safe, and that the things that it thinks will keep you safe are the things that are familiar to it. And so if my system is more familiar with fight or flight, it's just going to default to that every chance it gets. And that's how we end up in this misunderstood addiction to chaos, is we just keep creating situations for our stress to be really, really high. And then so high, we eventually just dissociate. And we just kind of swing that pendulum back and forth. But that's why that kind of gray area is so elusive and difficult to access, is because the brain thinks it's unsafe.